Lucky Libra, something shifts today, and you might already feel it before you understand why. A conversation that felt safe suddenly carries more weight than it should. An old ambition around money or property resurfaces, except this time you are tempted to break your own rules about it. And somewhere in a group chat, a social circle, or a passing invitation, a door opens that you were not expecting. The strange part is that all three of these moments trace back to the same sky. By the end of this reading, you will understand exactly why your boldest financial instinct, your quietest family moment, and your most unexpected social invitation are actually connected today. Let us start with the picture that ties it all together. The bigger picture. Today's defining event is a new moon in Leo, and this one carries extra weight because it arrives as a total solar eclipse. From the Western tropical perspective, this new moon lands in your 11th house, the zone of friendship, community, shared goals, and technology. Eclipses accelerate things. They do not whisper, they announce. So this is not a subtle nudge toward new connections. It is closer to a spotlight suddenly turning on, illuminating who belongs in your circle now and who no longer fits the version of you that is emerging. Later in the day, Mercury forms a sextile with Uranus, and from a psychological astrology lens, this aspect is less about events and more about internal permission. Uranus wants honesty and unpredictability. Mercury wants to communicate. Together, they create a small window where saying the truthful thing feels safer than usual, even if you have been avoiding it. Meanwhile, in Vedic or sidereal astrology, where the zodiac is calculated roughly 24 degrees differently, today's moon actually sits in Cancer rather than Leo. That is not a contradiction. It is a different lens entirely. And in that framework, this Cancer moon draws your attention toward home, family, and emotional roots rather than outward networking. So here is the first real synthesis of the day. The Western tropical chart is asking you to expand outward into community. The Vedic chart is asking you to root inward into family. Both are true. Both are happening in the same 24 hours. The question is not which one is correct. It is which one you need most right now. There is also a slower undercurrent running beneath all of this. In evolutionary astrology, Chiron, the wounded healer, is highlighting your relationship to financial security. Chiron does not ask you to play it safe. It asks you to examine where your definition of safety came from in the first place, then challenges you to push past it. Keep that thread in mind. It is going to matter more than it seems right now. Love here is where today gets emotionally interesting. If you are in a relationship, you may notice a strange contrast today. Words might feel complicated, even when your intentions are simple. Something said or left unsaid could create a small gap between what your partner says and what they actually seem to need. That gap is not necessarily a warning sign. It might just be uncertainty asking to be named instead of avoided. This is where that Mercury and Uranus aspect quietly returns. You may find yourself gravitating toward the safer, friendlier version of a conversation instead of the riskier, more honest one. Perhaps you have noticed this pattern before, where staying pleasant feels easier than staying real. Tay's chart does not force you to choose vulnerability. It simply asks whether staying comfortable is protecting the relationship or just protecting you from an answer you are afraid to hear. If you are single, the tone shifts towards something lighter. With the new moon energizing your house of community and friendship, attraction may not arrive through the obvious channels. It might arrive through a shared interest, a group setting, or someone you meet while doing something completely unrelated to dating. Many people with this transit report meeting someone memorable not through effort, but through simply showing up somewhere new. Flirting may feel easier today, almost effortless, because the eclipse energy loosens your usual filters. So here is the unresolved question this section opened. Is the emotional complication in your relationship actually about the relationship? Or is it about the same pattern the Mercury-Uranus aspect is exposing everywhere else in your life today, the habit of choosing safety over truth? Hold on to that. it resurfaces again before the day is done. Career, that same tension between safety and boldness does not stay confined to romance. It follows you into your work life too. And this is where Chiron's influence becomes impossible to ignore. You may have noticed a recurring thought lately about how you define professional security. Is it a steady paycheck? A title? Ownership of something real? Chiron is less interested in the label and more interested in whether your current path still matches what security actually means to you now. The mythological Chiron was not reckless. He was disciplined, trained, exacting. So this influence is not giving you permission to gamble carelessly with your career. It is giving you permission to challenge outdated rules about what is possible, but only if you have done the preparation to back it up. If you have been quietly building expertise while doubting whether you are ready to use it more boldly, this energy suggests you might be more ready than you think. The 11th house activation adds another layer here. Professional opportunities today may not come through traditional channels like resumes or interviews. They may come through community, through people who already respect your work, through a conversation that starts as networking and becomes something more strategic. Perhaps you have realized that some of your best opportunities already came from people, not job postings. Today reinforces that pattern. Money, this is where Chiron's real message becomes clear, and it connects directly back to that career tension. Your financial ambitions, especially anything involving real estate, long-term investment, or repayment planning, may be asking you to stop following someone else's definition of the smart move. Here is the moment worth sitting with. What looks like an unconventional financial decision right now may not actually be reckless. It may simply be the first version of a plan that has not been tried by people around you, which is exactly why it feels uncomfortable. The traditional or Hellenistic view of this kind of energy would frame it simply: opportunities may arrive through unexpected contacts, so stay open to conversations that do not look financially relevant at first glance. That fits neatly with the community energy from the eclipse. A friend, a group connection, or someone from your expanding circle could become genuinely useful to a financial goal you have not spoken about out loud yet. The key distinction is this: boldness without preparation is just risk. Boldness built on real knowledge, real research, real understanding of your numbers is closer to what Chiron is actually rewarding today. So before making a financial decision that feels different from your usual pattern, ask yourself honestly whether you have done the work to support it or whether you are just chasing a feeling of rebellion. Health here is something worth pausing on because it ties everything together so far. All this movement, outward toward community, inward toward family, upward toward ambition, can quietly exhaust your nervous system without you noticing until your body says so first. The traditional view here is simple and practical. Look after basic things like digestion and movement today, because emotional processing often shows up physically before it shows up in words. If you feel unusually tired, restless, or emotionally full today, that is likely not a coincidence. You are holding several emotional threads at once: a family pull, a social expansion, a financial reconsideration, and a relationship question that has not fully resolved. That is a lot for one day, even for a sign as socially graceful as yours. On the subject of remedies, some Vedic practitioners may recommend Saturn-related practices, such as specific mantras or gemstones, for individuals whose birth charts support them. This is not universal advice. Gemstone prescription in Vedic astrology requires personal chart analysis, and nothing here should be taken as a blanket recommendation. What is universally safe, though, is choosing colors that support today's themes, spending a few quiet minutes journaling about which emotional thread feels heaviest, and simply allowing yourself rest without guilt. Home and family, this is where the Vedic moon in Cancer becomes the emotional center of the entire day. You may find yourself unusually aware of your family's presence today, not as an obligation, but as something genuinely comforting. Perhaps you have noticed lately how rare it feels to simply be present with the people who know you best, without performing or managing anything. Today may offer one of those unhurried moments. Family members may recognize a selflessness in you that you do not always acknowledge in yourself, and their support might arrive at a moment when you did not realize you needed it. This is a good day to say the kind thing out loud instead of assuming it is understood. Acting on a feeling through a small kind gesture tends to land more meaningfully today than usual. There is a quiet symmetry here worth noticing. The same moon that pulls you toward home in the Vedic chart is the same lunar energy pulling you toward community in the Western chart. One asks you to root, the other asks you to expand. Today does not require you to choose only one. It simply asks you to notice which one your heart is actually asking for in this specific moment, family closeness or social connection, and to give yourself permission to lean into whichever feels more nourishing right now. Travel in spirit picture, a bridge connecting two familiar places you have never actually walked between before. That is roughly what today's chart is offering. Not a dramatic departure, but a new connection between parts of your life that already exist, just not yet linked. If travel comes up today, even something small like visiting a new part of your own city, it may carry more meaning than usual. New environments tend to introduce new people during eclipse windows, and eclipses are known for surprises. Talking to someone unfamiliar today, whether a stranger or a distant acquaintance, could plant a seed that matters more in a few months than it does right now. Spiritually, this is a good day to ask yourself the same question Chiron raised earlier about money, but applied more broadly. Where did your definition of what is possible come from, and is it still serving you? Growth today does not require a dramatic leap. It simply requires noticing where you have been playing smaller than your circumstances actually demand. Lucky signs: if you are looking for something to lean on today, indigo carries a steady, grounding quality worth wearing, especially during the early afternoon hours between 12:30 and 3, which tend to feel more favorable for important conversations or decisions. Energy that shares your appetite for both connection and independence tends to complement you well today. Trust conversations that begin casually. They may carry more long-term relevance than they first appear to. Tay's guidance. So here is where all of this comes together. The bold financial instinct, the family moment that felt unexpectedly meaningful, and the unfamiliar social invitation you almost dismissed. None of these are separate stories. They are the same eclipse energy expressing itself through different rooms of your life. Community asks you to expand. Family asks you to root. Chiron asks you to question old rules about safety. And Mercury's conversation with Uranus asks you, gently, whether staying comfortable is really protecting you or just keeping you from an honest answer. You do not need to resolve all of that today. You just need to notice where you have been choosing the safer version of yourself and ask if that is still necessary. Say the kind word to family. Send the honest message you have been drafting in your head. Take the financial idea seriously enough to research it properly instead of dismissing it. Small, deliberate choices today tend to matter more than they appear to in the moment. And if you have been sensing that something in your life is quietly ready to expand, today's sky agrees with you.